I'm Jonathan Mast, and I am thrilled to be live with you today with Josh Brown. We're going to be talking about AI as it relates to courses and some other things like that and effectiveness. I got to tell you, when it comes to courses, Josh is the guy. Josh and I have got to know each other this year, and I have been literally blown out of the water with the skills, the knowledge, and the experience that Josh has. I'll let him introduce himself here in just a minute, but I'm really excited today to be able to share with you guys tips and tricks about how we can use AI in the course area to really just dominate what we're doing. So, Josh, thanks for joining me today. I'm really excited about this. For those people that may not be as familiar with you as I am, can you share just a little bit about yourself and your background, kind of who you serve and how you add value to their lives, Josh?
Sure, I can do that. And I would appreciate if you could do my introductions every time. That would be hugely helpful. like, um, Thank you so much for the warm welcome and all those kind words. I feel the same way. Like when we've chatted now, like multiple times, like your like absolute just ease of explaining AI and that with that, of course, is such. I mean, it's changing every second, but also at the level of clarity is amazing.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, it basically my journey here is I was in the corporate world. I took the goat path way of getting here,
That's
which
smart one.
yeah. But I started out in the entrepreneur space, actually owning a production company, doing lights and sound for concerts and special events and things right out of college. I went into the corporate world for a while, and the thing for me that really resonated when I got here was that when I, like every entrepreneur, when they start looking at where the problems are, like that's the big thing is like, where are the problems? And I started realizing, and this was in 2018, that not a lot of people were really focused on the quality of their courses, but there was growth.
Yeah.
And what happens when something becomes more popular and you start getting growth? Initially, it'll do. Everything is it'll do, right?
Yeah.
When
Yep.
but then what happens afterwards? You have to increase the quality. So
Absolutely.
that was what I saw. And then of course 2020 happened and courses exploded, which was advantageous. And my background, because I picked that, was in education. I was a technology education teacher for a decade. I taught things like the Adobe suite of products, Photoshop, all of those things, and it was a natural pairing for what we're doing online. And since then, I've started my own agency, consulting, doing this. We do done for you offers on it.
Hmm.
And I've been blessed enough to help some of the biggest names in the industry at this point. We've consulted with our signature solutions with people like Russell Brunson, Todd Dickerson, Brian Delaney. Like there's a whole bunch of those people that we've worked with. And it's been a fun ride getting here.
No, and I think that's one of the things that impressed me as we've chatted over the last number of months is just the quality of the people you've worked with. I mean, people that consistently put out really high quality stuff, and knowing that you've been behind some of that. Well, I know a lot of the people that are going to be joining us either live or watching the replay. Of course, the benefit of live is we get some, but the benefit always comes in the replay because not everybody's available when we go live. But
Yeah.
we want to talk about AI. That's my passion.
Oh yeah.
I love practical aspects to it. And you have taught me so much about the course and the membership side. Talk to me a little bit from your perspective, Josh. What's AI's role when it comes to courses? I know there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, I can create a new course right now because I've got ChatGPT and give me 2-3 prompts and we're good to go. I don't buy that, but I'd love to get your impression on that and where, if at all, does AI fit into the course and the membership world?
I 100% think it fits in there, and I think it's going to get even more interwoven by every day within the next year. You're going to see it
Hmm.
in there even more, and I think there's a definite ethical debate that's going on. Particularly, where I have a background in academia, is if you don't cite your sources, that's theft.
Right.
And that a lot of people, and I see a lot of the gurus out there with, they integrated AI into their course building stuff and they go, build a course in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You didn't build a
Not a good
course.
course, but yes.
Yeah. A, you didn't build a good one. And B, it's you don't have any of the knowledge behind it. And the big ethical concern that I have is the vast majority of people creating courses and memberships and things like that are using their personal brand. So when you
Hmm.
sell it to that person, they're basically whether it's actually said or implied is that it's your secret sauce to do the process. If you just
Right.
go over to ChatGTP or Claude or Gemini or whatever one and go, I want to build a course on Facebook ads, create a script for me and tell me what I should put on my slide deck. And then you go in there and you've never run a Facebook ad or it's not been the primary thing you do. That's where a lot of the efficacy breaks down. Is
Absolutely.
you can't do that. What we use it for is, first of all, really understanding the ideal audience we want to entice to purchase that course or as the lead magnet, whatever it is. So when we're building a program for somebody, because like I'm deep enough on the efficacy of it, like we won't do like, we don't use AI video generation for the people
Right.
inside the
Yep.
course, and we will not be the primary person inside a program. Like if
Hmm.
you're making the program, congratulations, you're on camera. Those types of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Well, you have
you
to.
know, yeah, and particularly in this world of, with AI, deep fakes and things like that, it became a really fine line. But for us, what we use it for is that deep analysis of that avatar of who you're helping. And we use prompts that basically we look at it of, create a ideal client who
Hmm.
has this problem and wants to get to this solution. And
Mm.
then we, depending on what the offer is, to ask prompting questions like what's their roadblocks, what are the things they know that are accurate, what are the things they think are accurate but are actually inaccurate, things like that. We ask all of those deep questions of it, and then we normally go in and ask it to develop a curriculum first. And that's one of the big things. Like when I first got into the space, and I said in any entrepreneur world, I said curriculum, and all of them were like, because a lot of us are not huge fans anymore of traditional education. They all were
I
like,
see. Yeah, eyes glaze over. Oh no,
oh, I
I
don't
don't want
want that.
that.
I don't want a curriculum. I'm like, dude, it's an outline. It's a specialty outline. That's all it is. Like, it's not,
Right.
nothing too sinister. And that gives us the idea, and then we refine it back and forth with the GTP of how we want it to be. And then this is like the real big piece we use with it. And this is like, everybody, you're taking notes. Most people don't ask this question when you have it start helping you develop the content. Ask it to cite its sources.
Mm.
Where did it get the information? Because here's the thing. Let's rewind back to my example of I ask it to help me make a course on Facebook ads.
Right.
That changes daily practically. Like what you were running ads 6 months ago, the way you run them now is very different. What if it pulled those sources from an online ads course from 5 years ago?
Yeah.
And we'll also, particularly if it's something relevant and soon, we'll say, don't research or reference anything before 2021,
Ooh, I like
2022,
that.
whatever it is.
Great idea.
Yeah, because we found like we did some tests with it, and we were like, we asked it for more technical based things, and then it would pull it, and I was just like, that's not accurate anymore. With things like I did a test, and this reason why I keep referencing the Facebook ads piece is most people now, because of the AI in Meta, they are doing super broad targeting.
Hmm.
It gave us the example that what you should do for detailed targeting. That was what you did
Ah,
a year
yes.
ago.
Yeah.
So if I put that out there, the people are going to go, you don't know what you're talking about, but my name is now on it. So that's one of the things we do is a lot of times we'll tell it how far back do we want, who are people that when we're asking like to help build the curriculum, who do they follow? Like as far as thought leaders, things like that. That's one of the big
Hmm.
things we do with it is. And then here's the bonus point. If you ask it to tell it where it got your sources, You can put that at the bottom of each lesson or module.
Hmm.
This is a compendium of our experience plus all of these people, and you cite your sources. So then you're above board.
How have you found ChatGPT at citing sources accurately? I admit I generally go to a Perplexity when I'm looking for sources and citations. What's your experience been with that, Josh? And how well, the second, I guess, follow up, how well does it listen when you say don't use anything more than before 2022 or something like that? Does it actually follow those instructions? Because I know we've been seeing a lot of complaints recently that especially with their 4.0 model, it's not necessarily following instructions as well as it did under 4. And I'm just curious what your experiences there might be.
Yeah, 4.0 likes to go rogue a little more.
Okay, I'm glad it's not just me. Yep.
Yeah, it gave me a couple of wacky things. I think the voicing is a lot better in some of the nuances
Yes.
of what you ask, but I think the reference engine and the search engine behind it is a little squirrely. You have to have a lot more finite example of what you want. So the references generally can be decent. The thing we did is if we in the prompt initially ask it to cite the sources, it actually will normally get a little more honed of not just pulling something from a random, article somewhere or things like that, because it has to tell you where it came from. You'll find it from a lot more places. Like I had it, we were doing a mini training for one of our groups, and we wanted to talk about the avatars for social media platforms, like picking the right platform for your audience, because different demographics lean towards certain platforms more or less.
Absolutely.
And we asked it to cite its sources, and it pulled them actually from places like Sprout Social, which is an extremely reputable source. It pulled it from like HubSpot and a whole bunch of places like that were very relevant when we had those. So that worked really well. Side note, everybody, if you're using it for blog posts for the same thing, you ask to cite your sources, sometimes it'll actually rank those articles even better because you cited your sources with the links, and it thinks it has more credibility to it.
That's a great tip, guys. If you haven't taken anything else, that's a great tip on that alone. But one of the other things I think that adds so much value, Josh, to what you're saying is even if you do it in a course, if then there's a problem down the road that your data is outdated, at least you're referencing what you used, and it provides you with candidly a bit more cover, if so to speak, than just go, well, hang on, Jonathan's talking about this. That's not accurate anymore. And if I've cited my source, oh, it's because he's referring to this article that's 3 years old. Maybe he's done an update. And my guess is you're going to get a little more grace from your audience when you include those citations across the board. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, you can get more grace from it. You can also, when you're doing something like that, you have to think about it. Nobody's doing stuff like that. So when you're in a course or you do a master class or a lead magnet or whatever, and you see, okay, this is from this person, they came up with their ideas, and they're telling you where that these people validate my assumption on this, that adds a lot more credibility. Think about what the difference is if you look at a lead magnet book that has no sources in it, or if you go to a reference, like a really well-crafted book and it's cited, even if you don't look at the sites, it subliminally goes, this person did their homework.
Yeah, much more credible.
Extremely credible then.
Well, so obviously that's a huge tip on how to create the courses and getting involved in that. Let me ask you this, and I have an opinion that I'll share with you in a moment, but one of the most common questions I seem to get is, what one prompt can I enter in order to write a course for me? And I don't believe that's possible, at least not, again, to write a good course. We talked up front about how some of the gurus are, one prompt and you'll have a course in 5 minutes, but it's not going to be a good course. It's not going to be a comprehensive course. From your perspective, as somebody's going in and writing a course, I believe they should first make sure that they actually know the material. In other words, I shouldn't write a course about being a heart surgeon because I don't know the first thing about being a heart surgeon. And even though ChatGPT could give me an overview, nobody wants me cutting into their chest, period, end of story.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to. What's your perspective and what message would you have, I guess, Josh, for those people that are like, hey, now I want to go ahead and create this course. I've got a little bit of knowledge, but they're really looking for that easy button. Is AI in your mind that easy button, or is it just a tool that helps make it easier?
I think it's a tool that makes it easier. And it cycles back to what we both are both support, is that it shouldn't be the tool to write everything. You know, it's you should not be using that to craft every little bit you have. So for us, the stages we look at is because it's a multi-shot AI, we like to basically build the avatar of who we're going to be working with. So we always start when we're looking at building a training or whatever it might be, of we ask it for a psychographic profile of the ideal audience, and we tell it we're going to be crafting content for X objective with X, and we want to first create a psychographic profile of, and give as much detail as you can, who is interested in solving this problem, and they are starting here.
I love that specificity.
Yeah. And we get a lot more specific with stuff like that, because then it gives you like an extremely robust output that now you can go, given this audience, we want to create a curriculum on X topic with this X result. Because you have to remember, when you're building a course, people have you have an ideal client coming in that has a specific set of knowledge. Just to use the same example we've been using of like with ads, is this somebody who's never run a Facebook ad, or is this somebody running 6 figures worth of Facebook ads?
Yeah.
Very different program.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you precede it with that of, saying this is a brand new audience that has never run this before, whatever it may be, and our goal is to have the success of this, create an ideal curriculum. And then we have it create the curriculum, or we could even start with an outline, which is even more simplified version of a curriculum. Create an outline. You can add in extra prompts with this, and I'm sure actually if you ran this through the perfect prompt, you could get this even more detailed. But the big piece of it is treat it like a dialogue at that point of going, I love it. You can say to it, I love this outline. The only issue is, because remember, we know something about the topic we're writing. We're just using it to act as a research assistant. That's the thing. Treat ChatGPT like a research assistant. It's your VA or your research assistant who's the best in the world at doing research. I like this, and this. I think this should change. And you can ask it to move those around and say, this is now ideal. Can you now create? And we take that outline. We take the outline, and then we take the curriculum, and we tell it, can you create a lesson plan for each one of these objectives? And you can also get specificity of how long you want each lesson to be, or whatever it might be. And then you now have a lot more deep understanding of where the ideas are. And the whole time you can ask it to, come up with new iterations of it. Like, oh, don't think this is where we want to go. We want to try it over here, and those types of things as you're going through it.
One of the things that I think is so powerful about what you're saying here, Josh, is having that conversation with AI. This is not a one-shot tool. It's not a, okay, I'm gonna figure out the perfect prompt. I'm gonna put it in, and it's gonna do everything for me. It's designed to have a conversation. In fact, I just did a whole series on interviews, and I don't know if you've ever tried this or not, but one of the things we found works really well. mainly because I find I don't always know what information to give AI. So I
Mhm.
used AI to help me develop my prompting course, but of course I used my tactics and my skills and my experience to do that. But I wasn't always sure what I should tell it. So I actually asked, just like you did, we defined the audience, we defined the scope, we defined where we wanted to go, and then I asked AI to actually interview me, to
Mhm.
ask me the questions that it would need in order to be able to put this together. And I got to admit, I did it on a whim. It was like, I wonder if it would do this. And
Yeah.
it worked really, really well, because what I found is it asked me questions about some things that I expected, obviously. It also asked me questions about a few things that I hadn't anticipated, but then it used as it helped me create and craft that content. And overall, again, really fitting in with what you're talking about, multiple prompts, multiple
Mhm.
conversations, digging deep, really very similar to if you and I were to sit down over lunch and plan a course, the same
Exactly.
exact type of things that you and I would sit and talk about. We're now just using AI to help us in that process as we go through. Am I understanding you? Am I on
Yeah.
the same
It's,
page as you are there,
it's
Josh?
exactly. It's like you're using it as the perfect research assistant to take a
I
whole
love
bunch of
that.
your ideas and get clarity on it. And we've used it extensively in helping plan some of our programs we have. And again, you're not creating programs on things you don't know anything about, but
Right.
you're using it to hone in on not ultimately what you think your audience wants, but what they really need.
Mm, mm.
And I love the idea of doing the interview. In fact, I think we're going to test that next time. Is do the interview related around the topic.
Hmm.
And what we do, because also there is, if you're using Chat GTP, a character limit with the
Yes.
outputs. What we like to do is once we have that outline, we'll tell it, give us lesson plans for depending on how long your program is. Because you can also tell it how long you want this ideal program to be. You want this entire program to not exceed approximately 2 hours worth of content or whatever it might be. Is now give me the output for module one.
Yeah.
And you can have it give the outputs. And we've even, and again, citing sources. This was like a little thing we did and we tested to see how people reacted to it. And they were like, that's cool. Was we when with the output, we said for each module, find a singular reference from a known public figure to
Ooh.
validate this module. So for example, we have one program that helps teachers become entrepreneurs, and we were talking about branding. So we took and asked it find a source that would validate it with a quote. So then it pulled the name of the person and the quote, and we added that at the beginning of it. It's like you don't think branding is important. Well, according to this person, here's a validation
Hmm.
of what we have. And so then it did the output for each one. And then what we would do is we take each one of those outputs and we copy it and we put it into a Google Doc. So we have then the raw output for um, whatever the content we would be. You can
Hmm.
even then ask it for each lesson, what are the key principles in fill in the blank format each person needs to know from this topic.
Mm.
And so if you wanted to have a worksheet from it or whatever it might be, you can ask it what it is before you move to that next module. You see, so you can start getting into those things, and even to the point of we've asked it once we get that module or that lesson really tight, is we'll tell it, and mind you, some of our outputs start getting really long, so we're getting a lot of specificity
Oh yeah.
of what you want. Is we'll take and say, can you consolidate into one US letter size paper, or pick the word length not to exceed the amount of words, um, guide for this lesson. Boom. You now have a worksheet that goes with it. So you can have that PDF in there.
I love that. And
You
huge
see?
value to your audience too.
It is. And because there's different types of learners. There's visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners. Some people like to write stuff. So we find that like having those things in there is a little extra value for people if you need it, so you can have those little extra outputs and things as you're going along as you're doing it. So what we do is once each lesson's right, copy, paste it, put it into a Google Doc, and we just keep it really organized in that fashion. And I guess I can let you know on one of the others, the next secret that we do, because we talked about this in the last call, is ChatGPT, when you do these, because like we don't look at it as using a singular platform.
Right.
We notice that there are strengths in certain platforms. So in a lot of cases, what we'll do is we'll take that output and we'll bring it over to like Claude that has a much better writing model. And we'll ask it, say, review this document and without changing the outputs, make it easier to read and humanize it. And it will take and go through, and basically it's now an editor. It does a second pass on it. It's not changing any of the outputs of what you have. It's just looking for if it's too deep or whatever it might be. So I basically pair the AIs off of each other.
I love that. And I remember talking about that when we talked the other day. It's one of the same things we do where, my preference is to use ChatGPT for initial writes and then use Claude for what I call proofreading. Now, I've been told by my wife and a few others that are much better at that than I am, that it's not really proofreading. But to me, it is, as the ADD entrepreneur. Yeah. Because one, it catches errors. But like you said, I really like the way Claude writes better than I do ChatGPT, but it doesn't have internet access. It doesn't have that ability to grab citations for me and things like that. But if I give it that Google Doc information, or just even a PDF version of that, or a copy and paste it in, it does an amazing job of rewriting that in matching tone. And I think, as we were talking a little bit earlier, following instructions. I find that, the Claude 3.5 in particular really does a great job of following instructions, as opposed to ChatGPT, which does a fair job, but not necessarily. It's not my A student. It's my C student, as opposed to Claude, which is my A student when it comes to following directions. So,
and that's one of the things I tell people a lot with it, is that you pick the right tool for the job. For example, Claude does a better job in writing or emulating writing styles. So what we've done a couple of times is we'll take, and it's just because people inevitably are coming to us because they see us on social media and stuff like that. I took a Google Doc and I copied like dozens of my social posts, emails, and things like that, put it in there, and told Claude, I'm going to give you a document I want you to rewrite. I'm uploading a document with my writing style. Review it so you understand my writing style, so you can rewrite the document I'll upload. Acknowledge if you understand. It reviewed it, and then it went, okay. I said, this is the document I want you to rewrite in my writing style. Hit it with that, and then boom, output. And then it basically finessed it a little bit to make it more of your writing style. So things like headlines became more of your writing style, and things like that. And which also, by the way, the reason why I said upload it as a PDF is it will pick up the intonation of what's headlines, what's subheadlines, what's body, all of those things. So that's the reason for doing that. So in your Google Doc, make sure things are headlined or subheadlined, and you can reuse it over and over again. That's like a make it once thing. ChatGPT will do it a little bit, particularly if you start doing a custom GTP for your language. output style, but it still just doesn't have quite the finesse of Claude.
No, I find the same thing. And one of the things you mentioned there that I've had great luck with, and I love to hear you mention because we've not talked about this, but is to actually set the stage for what you want done and then end it with, do you understand? And then provide it with your documents or whatever. I admit I do that a lot when it comes to helping out with social media posts that I'm creating. I have a format that I love to follow. I prefer Claude. Now they have projects, so I might be able to fit it in there. But I have a long chat going where I just started at the beginning by saying, here's the format I want you to follow. Here's the tone and style I want you to use. I'm going to give you a topic and some bullet points, and I want you to turn that into a social media post. And do you understand? Yes, I understand. And then I can go literally and say, all right, so I want to write a social post about how I can create a course leveraging AI, but I want to make sure that it's not a single prompt scenario. It talks about a process and all that. And I can give that bit of information, and I'll get a great social media post that follows all of the parameters that I laid out, and my tone and my style. And the beautiful thing is then the next prompt, it can be another topic, and it can do that. So you could really build through your course in that same way, I would think, couldn't you? I mean, couldn't you literally, once you have your outline or your curriculum in place, couldn't you literally go through and say, all right, now do this section, now this section, now this section. As long as you've laid that out, it's almost like that custom GPT that everybody wants to create that has all that information. Just stay in that chat window and keep asking. And because Claude has a much, much larger memory than what ChatGPT does, you're likely not to run any issues as you do that. I love that. What a great practical share on how to leverage that tool. One of
the things is, particular, if you notice the way we're talking about this, is it's still maintaining the relationship we're John and I are both akin to, of it's an assistant. It's a researcher. It's still you. We're not taking and uploading somebody else's writing style and say, emulate this or whatever. We're using this because if the people see you online, they see the post, they see the sales funnel, all those things, they're expecting the same type of piece. I don't know how many of you have ever bought a book from one of the online gurus. You pick it up and open up and go, within the first page, this was written by a ghostwriter. It immediately, and we ultimately will still go through it and still assess it. And remember everybody, we're saying course is an overarching thing. This could be a 30-minute masterclass. This could be a year-long, mastermind you're adding stuff to all the time. And that's actually one trick we do is we keep a thread open for things like a program that's like a membership we're going to add to all the time because it remembers the stuff you did before and correlates them on the new stuff.
Well, and that's a really good pivot. I wanted to say, and we wanted to talk courses, but I'd also like to talk membership because you're an expert at membership sites and drawing people in and keeping them engaged. And you just shared one amazing tip there about, again, almost creating it more like a mastermind where you're continuing to add value to that course on an ongoing basis. Talk to us a little bit, Josh, from your perspective, from a membership. We obviously want to sell courses, but the benefit obviously is in being able to sell more courses down the road and or create a membership where maybe there's a monthly recurring fee that allows us to scale what we're doing there. Talk to us a little bit about how memberships fit in with the entire course layout and the business model from your perspective.
People really overcomplicate memberships as a whole.
Fair enough.
Memberships are courses with a support structure. That's it. That's all it is. And, I was talking with a couple of our clients a while back and they think you just have to make prolific stuff all the time. The way we like to do them is, like we mentioned, of create a curriculum. Well, here's ultimately a thing. You can create that curriculum over in GTP and then say, I want to create a initial 6-week success path. And that's the beginning of your membership. So that's, for all you, for my fellow marketing geeks out there.
Yes.
If people have time-bound expectations of something completing, it sells better.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
can say, I want a 6-week program that has, approximately 2 hours a week worth of work or whatever it might be. And then what happens is you can then go and tell it additionally, we're going to be doing weekly classes on X topics to go deeper. And the way like our signature way we do memberships is you have a signature success path that gets people going. Two things. One is it's easier to get initial wins to success that way because they know the roadmap they need to go. The second thing we have them do is that it's easier to see the initial result. And we tell them, and this is the reason why it's a membership, because once you have success with this, we're going to help keep you going to the next along the way. It's because depending on the psychologist you talk to, it can take anywhere from 21 days to 180 days normally to build a habit. So that beginning helps build habits, and it's very structured in getting people going because you got to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. We want them to crawl first. So we have them build that success path, and then we can even ask ChatGPT where are they most likely to have issues with success, and that's when we like to add in things like, give you an example. Like we have an entrepreneurship program to teach teachers how to become entrepreneurs. What are going to be the two big things that they're going to have problems with? I used to be a teacher. I knew them off the top of my head. I didn't even have to ask ChatGPT it, but it's the technology and their head trash.
Ooh,
So the stuff between their ears saying, oh, well, this, that, and the other thing, so that is holding them back. Like we have one lady inside the program. She has a great idea for a program. She's been hung up, and we keep mentoring and trying to do those things. The head trash is still there. That she hasn't picked the right name for her program yet.
And that's the stumbling block for her.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't. Like it's like just go imperfect action, but this group likes perfect action. So like, what do we need to do? Okay, we added in for our membership. We have weekly little nuggets of like, here's some ideas for like an email you could send to your list. Here's an idea for a social post. Again, that reduces the friction and it reminds them, hey, I'm supposed to do that. And then we add in some weekly group calls. That's like one of them's around tech, the other one's around mindset stuff. And we invite some of those people on. And if we realize a lot of people are having the same question, we can then build additional content with the help of ChatGPT or our own experiences, and then amplified with it of, hey, we're going to take and do a masterclass on Wednesday. It's going to be an hour on this topic. ChatGPT helps us with the outline to make sure it's accurate for that group. And then we can go in there and do that. Ultimately, the thing is that if you notice, none of that stuff I'm saying after you have that foundation of the program requires a massive amount of time on your part. You just have to have your ears going on hearing what the resistance is. And it's one thing I actually talked a lot about, some of the higher level people I've talked to, is the follow-up is key. So like if you pay attention to that data, it'll start telling you like, oh, here's the resistance point.
I love that. There's so many questions we could go into, so many thoughts, but I'm trying to figure out. You've actually got me speechless for once as to where I want to go. My ADD brain's got like 17 topics I'm thinking about. Okay, where do we go with this, and where do we run with it?
We'll do another one. We can go. We can tackle the other 16.
I appreciate that, Josh. Let's go talk a little bit about marketing. We've used these tips that you've shared to create a course, maybe a membership. We've done all that. We haven't overcomplicated the membership. So we focused on that speed to implementation and just made some things happen, focused on imperfect action is better than perfect nothing. Based upon all that, we've done that. We've got that in there. How do you recommend reaching out and starting to market that course or that membership to reach that target audience?
Really the big thing that we, not even inclusive of the AI is, just people forget the bare beginnings of it. People buy courses, they buy everything based upon they have a problem, they're finding a solution. You know, ultimately that's what it is. And they're going to search for it somewhere, either actively or passively. Actively, they're going to go to Google and they're going to type in, how do I do this? And they're going to see YouTube videos or Google search or an ad. And the same thing on Meta or any of the other social platforms like that. They're going to be scrolling and they're going to be reminded they have that problem. So ultimately, that's where people forget is it's like you throw the information out there. That person, either actively or passively, is aware normally at that point. That's the easier marketing, is that they're problem aware of something. And you go, hey, I got this solution. This is why it works. It worked for these other people, and this is how it can happen. And people overcomplicate it as they're going through. And some of the best marketers in the world, if you really look at it, it's simple. Simple always wins. You know, if you look at some of the great marketers out there, you know, people spend time making these, you know, crazy, gorgeous, super complicated sales funnels and all these things. And then you got people out there with like a white background with black text and a janky video who are crushing it.
Yeah.
It's just because they managed to alliterate what this problem is and how they're going to help and solve it with mitigating the risk as much as possible. So that's why, like, and a lot of times when we're doing things, we love to, particularly in the marketing end, because courses are reselling stuff to people again and again. Like, that's the thing, you're reselling that their time is less valuable and you can solve the pain. So like, you still use marketing stuff inside courses and memberships. Is you take, and when we do ChatGPT or Claude or any of those to start creating content, we still ask it about the psychographic profile of our audience, so we can do it. And we like to ask it a little bit more than just an avatar. Like, we can start with an avatar and then we ask it what the psychographic profile is. And then we'll even get a little bit deeper and say, we're creating an offer on this that does X result for them. What is their current emotional state, and what is their goal emotional state? Because people buy with emotions.
Absolutely.
So we ask them. So, like, for example, you know, with our offer, what we run for the teachers, most people would think it was things like, you know, the emotional state for them would be, you know, something, you know, deep and stuff like that. It ended up that, and we tested it because we have a massive data pool to tell us. We have 4,000 entry questionnaires for a Facebook group. So we know exactly what the same questions are. We comparatively, we gave ChatGPT without that spreadsheet, asked it what the thought of what the current emotional state is and what their goal emotional state was. It matched.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because we test a lot of stuff. We have firsthand data. We use it, and it didn't have access to that data. And it was that they weren't looking for buying a Lambo and a beach in Malibu and stuff like that. They wanted time freedom. That was they wanted to have freedom, certainty, and respect. That was their emotional state afterwards. So when we switched our marketing to things like that, our ad cost dropped in half.
Wow. Like, massive.
Because we could speak to them. And, you know, those types of things. And, you know, you can get pretty deep on assessing some of those pieces, even to the point of, you know, what type of buyer are they? You know, what values do they have when they're buying? And particularly when you have, because you asked it to preload with that psychographic thing, and then you know, like you have a great prompt for doing avatars. You know, you could stack. Remember, like we keep saying, you can stack prompts, everybody. Like, you can.
Oh yeah, it's powerful to do so.
Yeah, like stack the prompt. Ask it. You know, do the prompt. Do Jonathan's prompt for creating an avatar, and then say, hey, given this audience, create a psychographic profile for this person. You know, and you know, then you can ask it what's their for this offer? What is their current emotional state? What's their goal emotional state? And then ask them, what are their top 10 10 questions they would need answered to purchase this product. Like, start asking it, because it's going to take that ideal client. If you take the time to get that avatar and that psychographic profile right, then every question after that's going to be able to get deeper and deeper as they're going through it.
I love it. And I love how you consistently kept this thread through the entire conversation, Josh, about not overthinking things. Just even as you were describing, the basic problem, agitate, solution marketing framework that is so powerful. And by the way, folks, if you're listening, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, if you tell them to use the PAS marketing framework, problem, agitate, solution, it knows what you're talking about. It knows everything more than you probably know about that framework. And you don't need to necessarily become an expert in that framework. You just need to be able to ask the right questions. And I love, Josh, how you're talking about current emotional state and future or desired emotional state. Because again, like you said, people buy based on emotion. And if we can tie that together and make them feel an emotion about our offer, that they can see a place they want to go, you're right. That janky sales video on a white page with black text is probably going to outperform everything else 99% of the time, because we tapped into an emotion that causes them to buy. And I love how you simplify that and keep everything so simple.
Yep. And then what you can then do is take, for example, the prompt that you have of, let's say, for example, the VSL.
Yeah.
Okay. Given this audience, and then you can say you want to, using the prompt, modify it a little bit to tell it you want to use the information above, is to create a video sales letter that's in, X amount of time. And then it can output that script. Now, the little trick I do with this is, particularly if I ask it for scripts and things, is unfortunately ChatGPT and Claude really is verbose. It loves writing really long sentences, and it loves to use, collegiate words and stuff like that. And there's an old thing in, depending on who you talk to, that you should write all marketing materials in 3rd to 5th grade level.
Yes.
That's the thing. And multiple people have cited that that's what you should do, because it'll convert higher. We actually will take whatever that script is, and we go to one that most people are not talking about, is we put it in Hemingway.
Yes.
So, in fact, we were talking about this on our last chat,
we were.
That was really cool. We were sharing all this information. Is Hemingway, and yes, you can add, by the way, use Hemingway rules, like Jonathan said in a couple of his posts. You can say, compose this according to Hemingway rules, which is his particular writing style, which is about 3rd to 5th grade writing style. But what I like to do with it is I will actually manually put it in there, and there's a paid version of it that you can get access to the AI, and it will tell you things like where you're using passive voice, and it will actually highlight it and say, this is a hard to read sentence, and it keeps the same writing style, but how could you reduce it to a shorter sentence? Things like that, and will tell you the grade output of that writing to get it down. Because I actually did that same process where I took and I was doing some guides, and I took my initial outline, I gave it what I wanted, I told it I wanted to expand upon it. So I gave it my outline, because I write extremely brief. I'm a technical writer, so my stuff's like, boom, here it is. And because I was an academic writer, they're like, that's fluff, get it out of there. So I'm not used to fluffy and pretty. It's like, here it is, guys, and I'm out. I'd consolidate War and Peace into like 3 pages.
I might read it then.
Yeah, I know. Same here. Have not read it, nor will I read it. ADD, not going to happen.
You got it.
And way too long for Audible. So
yes.
what we did was we put it over there, and it looked great and everything. I was reading it, and I thought, oh, this is really, yeah, this is really good. Like, I wonder what grade level it's in. Dropped it in Hemingway. It was written in postgraduate.
Wow, that's too hard.
I was like, whoa, that's not good. And I went through it and edited them, gave it again to a test pool. I said, hey, what do you think of this? Oh, this is great. Other thing. They didn't like the first one. It was hard to read, very long sentences, things like that. So that's one of the tricks we do is whatever output's there, if it's going to go in front of people, we can use Hemingway AI to actually help us reduce the grade level down, remove things like passive voice, switch it to active voice, and those types of things. Because again, that's now your proofreader. So the way we look at it is over here, ChatGPT is the ultimate tool for research. That's your research assistant. Then you can look at Claude is your ultimate writing assistant because it's better at the writing piece. Then your editor is over on Hemingway.
Mm-hmm.
So you literally have an AI writing team.
I love that, Josh. And what a great place as we're wrapping up on time here. I know you've got a hard stop at the top of the hour. What a great way to leave us with a very quick summary of what to do. And I want to so appreciate and thank you for the value you've dropped in here. Guys, if you, I don't care if you're live or replay, you need to go back to the beginning and you need to replay this again because Josh dropped so much incredible value in here. If you've been wondering, how do I start that course? How do I take my knowledge and turn it into a course or a membership? How do I do that? Guys, Josh literally just gave you the plan to do that in less than an hour. And with AI, that means you're only going to have to spend days creating this, not months and months and months. Josh, let me ask you this. Normally when I do live, we don't do this, but if people have got questions, and I know you help people take those courses and improve them and monetize and your coaching and all that, how do they best get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you do? If they've been impressed with the last hour, which I'm sure they have been, how do they take that next step and figure out how they engage with you?
You can find me on all the social platforms as at JK Brown Official. So that's
Perfect.
where
Simple, easy.
Yep. I'm everywhere across all of those. So if you want to, and that's the easiest way is at JK Brown Official. That's everywhere. So your favorite platforms, I'm pretty much on, well, all. So, if I figure out how to get on MySpace again, I'll be over there too, but
Well, Josh, again, I want to thank you for your time. I have, as you know, we've talked, I have so enjoyed getting to know you this year, and I'm looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you on projects in the future. I want to thank you for your time today. You've literally dropped so much gold today. I mean, I've got to go back through this myself to pick up on this stuff. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your sharing, having the abundance mindset. Truly grateful for you. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me and sharing my message with your audience. I love what you're doing with AI. We're a kin spirit on give to our audiences and all of that. I love what you're doing. You're a master of AI. So everybody, whatever Jonathan says about AI, follow it, and it works because I take notes on the AI pieces from this guy. So make sure you follow along his stuff because I do.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. Guys, I also want to thank you for joining us today on the live stream or the replay. We're grateful for you. We do this for you guys. We would love your feedback. So down in the comments, although we haven't been paying attention today to comments, let us know what you think. Do you like this? Would you like more? Maybe if you love it, I can ask Josh to do this again and give us even more golden nuggets. So let us know in the comments what you think.